Okay, so let's start talking about Blizzard. So what are some of the things, so the theme of this discussion, right, is going to be, what do you think is the reason? What do you think are some of the reasons that Blizzard has been so successful in designing these games, right, after watching that video? So let's talk about some of the things that you guys noticed as you guys watched the video. Anything. It could be anything, right? The people, like, what did you guys notice that you thought was really important to their success? Think about it, come on, don't be shy.
They work together from lots of peer, like fashion, peer work.
So you're saying that they basically came from different areas? Or are you, like,
one person is software engineer.
Right. That's a really, really good, this is something that very early on, right, in companies when you have very few people, right, the same people have to do many different roles, right? You were saying how some of the guys who are actually working in production, right, they're making sure that like the games as they're being designed are working properly. They also have to do the technical support, right? So you know how they said things like, they said a lot of things, like for instance, they would go, during the daytime they had the regular tasks, right? But at the nighttime they would go to the store and get like new computer hardware to help the people if they're having trouble with their machines and things like that. So let's talk about that, right? So there's a term for that, right? It's called versatile, okay? This is the English word versatile. V-E-R-S-A-T-I-L-E. Versatile means, or when you're versatile, that's the adjective, right? But the verb is versatility, right? Versatility. This might be a word that you have seen somewhere before, right? What this really means is the ability to do many different things, right? So let's write that. The ability to do many different things. Okay? And for a new company, right? Let's say if it's just the four of us and we started our company, right? Think about it. We would all have to do all these different things. We would have to understand the business, right? Let's say if it's a clothing company, we'd have to understand how to design clothes. We'd have to understand how to work with computers, right? We'd have to take turns being receptionists, right? You have to do all these different roles. So everyone at the beginning was really versatile. When you really think about, for instance, Mike Morheim, right at the beginning of the video, there was two guys talking, right? The Egyptian guy, Alan, and Mike, right? So Alan and Mike, normally you would think that the CEO of a company, you would think that he's probably like a business guy, right? He's probably not someone who has a background in designing something or doing the type of work that a very junior level person would. But Mike Morheim actually designed the cell editor, which is really one of the first really important programs that they had, that they used, that they created from the cell editor. They made it more and more advanced. And they still use a really advanced version of the cell editor even today. So even the CEO of the company, right? At one time, he himself was designing like the games basically. So really what you see is that a lot of their people, right, are very versatile. You have artists who know how to program. You have producers who are doing technical support, right? They're the ones who are fixing the computers as well for everyone else, right? So that's something that you really see. So that's a really good observation. And this is something that, for a lot of startups, think about it, when you just form your company, right? There's really few people. Maybe it's just like a group of friends. Maybe it's just like, let's say it's the four of us, right? We all have to do a lot of different things. You don't have enough time. You only have 24 hours in a day, right? But in that time, we have to do meetings, we have to design our products, we have to meet with investors, right? People, if we're searching for money and things like that, right? So that's a really good observation in terms of very early on. It's not like they started with 100 people. They started with 3 people, right? Frank, Mike, and Alan, right? Those are the 3 guys that started the company. That's a really good observation. What are some other things that you noticed? It could be anything. It could be anything. Koyun, what did you notice? Think about it. When you were watching the video, right? Did you think that people were very happy? The people that were working for the company? Did they seem really happy? right? So that's another really, really important part, okay? Let's call that company culture, okay? Company culture. So you guys have seen the word culture before. Company is obviously really easy. And culture is kind of like, culture is a word that has many different meanings, right? It can be Korean culture, Japanese culture, American culture, right? It's like expectations, right? It's like your identity, right? So their identity was really that they were a group of people who loved video games, right? This is what they are. We're all fans of video games. And we all know how to design, we all know computer science, so we all know how to design these things. Or we're all artists. So they really, it's amazing how when you watch that video, you see people saying that, oh, like I was studying to become a doctor, like Matt Samia, right? The guy with the beard, he was saying, I was studying to become a doctor, and I came because my friend was working at this company. He told me, you have to come check this out. And he said, the day he walked in, he knew that he was just going to abandon all his plans to become a doctor, and he just wanted to work here. Chris Metzen, I've actually met him in person. He's a really cool guy, the guy with the glasses and the earrings and stuff, with the short hair. Chris Metzen writes all the stories for the games, right? And he's also one of the lead artists. So, even when you hear him say that, when they told me that when they asked him, do you want to work for us? He said that I'll clean the place. I'll be the guy who cleans up the place if you want me to, but I just want to work here, right? There's something about the company. When you have the right group of people, and really what it's all about is company culture, what it really comes down to, right? What's the most important thing? Everyone has the same vision. This is very important, right? Everyone has the same vision that one day we're going to create video games that are going to be played all over the world. We have great ideas. We have a lot of talent. Remember, Mike said something really interesting. He said, no matter what it was, we felt like we're smart. If we spend enough time studying it, we can find a way to do it. C++ is a computer programming language. At that time, it was really new. And they didn't know. They hadn't learned C++. They'd never programmed in it. But Mike learned it. He said, I'm going to take the time, I'm going to learn it. And then he used C++ to create the cell editor. So it's kind of like you have that vision, and you also have that sort of belief, right? Belief is also something that's really important. That in the beginning, the first few years of a new company, right? It's really risky because you don't have money. You guys are all trying to do this, but you don't know if you're going to be able to survive, right? Because you're constantly looking for investors, right? So you have to have that belief in yourself. That's really, really important. The belief to say that we're going to find a way, no matter what problems come up. We're all smart. We all have the same vision. We're all very motivated, right? We believe in ourselves. So we're going to find a way to find solutions to the problems that we come across. That's really, really important when you have, because there's a lot of uncertainty, right? You guys understand the term uncertainty. You're not sure. When you start a company, there's so many things. You could invest thousands of dollars, right? You could take all your savings and invest in it to get office space or to start creating something, right? But you don't know if it's going to work out. It's a big risk, right? So you have to have that belief, that confidence that, we're smart, we're capable, we can do this. And, to have that sort of confidence in yourself is really, at the end of the day, what is a big part of success in terms of when you start a company, right? So that's really interesting. So we've talked about them being very versatile, especially in the early years, right? We've talked about their company culture, right? What are some other things that you guys might have noticed?
They did keep their mind. So their mind were not shaped by other things. They just keep their mind.
Yes, that's a really good point. So that's once again, we're talking about vision, right? So vision, once again, in terms of, you can't think about for instance, when their parents were telling them, right, that, Mike's dad was really, really kind of upset with him that, why are you quitting? You have a good job. Mike and Frank's dad as well. They're like, well, you have a good job. Why are you leaving? You guys are too young. This is a crazy idea. What do you guys think you're doing? So, for them to be like, no, this is what we really want to do. We have a passion for this. And we don't want to just sit behind a desk for the rest of our lives. So this is something that we want to do. And they had that kind of belief in themselves, right? So that's really, really important as well, to stay with the vision, the fact that people were doubting them in the beginning. They didn't know, like, whether or not they were going to be successful. Now, what about, do you guys remember, there was the old guy, right? Bill Davidson, Bill and his wife, Jan Davidson, right? They're really important because, let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about investors, right? So whenever you start a business, very few people can keep a business running for more than a few years with just your money, right? Because when you're young, if you just started working, it's not like you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank. You might have some money. And if we all come together and we say, okay, this is all our savings, we're all fully invested, right? The reality is that you can only continue so far, right? I have friends, for instance, who are in startup companies right now, new companies. Like two of my friends, for instance, they have a website that they run. They still work part-time because the money that they earn from their jobs, they live in this tiny apartment together in Brooklyn, and they have this website that they run, right? The money that they get from their jobs, they basically put towards the costs of their website, basically. But they really, really believe in their idea, right? So the thing is, they're always looking for investors, right? To say that, okay, if you give me $1 million to run the business, I'll give you 10% share, right? So eventually, if we sell the company, or if we become a public company, you own 10% of the company, if you give us $1 million now, right? So you're always looking for investors. But this is really, really critical. This is something that they're kind of lucky that this happened. The Davidson Institute, like the old couple, right, Bill and Jan Davidson, they used to make educational software, learning software for kids, learning games. Remember, they were talking about how we were big in the educational software market, right? But they thought that, they gave Blizzard a project. At that time, how Blizzard used to earn money so that they could create their own games was that they would take projects from other companies, right? Other company would tell them, this is our idea for the game, right? This is like some sample artwork. This is what we think it should look like. We want you guys to actually create the game. This is how they would earn money. They get like a little bit of a fee for doing the work, but they were kind of like consultants, right? Who were doing someone else's work for them because they had people who could program, people who could create these games. But the thing is, the reality is that when the Davidson Institute gave them a project, right, to create this educational game, and they liked Blizzard's work so much that, Bill Davidson comes and he talks to Alan. And he says, Alan, if we wanted to buy your company, how much do you want? And I think at the time, this was like in the mid-1990s. I think this was 94, 95. I think Alan calculated what he thought was a fair price, and he said $6 million. I think this was the amount that it was sold for, which is like nothing compared to what they're worth now. But you know what? The Davidson Institute said, yeah, we agree. I think that's a fair price. So they agreed to it. But the problem was that they had a choice, right? They could either go with Davidson, right? This is one option. Or they could go with Interplay. Now, Interplay is another company. They're still around. Interplay is still around. They were a big game company. They're not as big as they used to be. But Interplay also wanted to buy Blizzard because they also did work for Interplay, and Interplay really liked their work. So in the beginning, you remember, Alan said that we were thinking we're going to go with Interplay, right? And Bill Davidson, Jan, his wife, calls them back, right? And remember, she says, "I think you've made a big mistake. I want you guys to think about it more, right? I want you guys to spend some more time thinking about it." And then finally, they decide that, you know what? We just want to concentrate on making games. We don't want to be worried about business, about marketing the product and all this stuff. We just want to focus solely, like you were talking about, their focus, right? Their vision. Really, and what we want to say is maybe their focus, right? They wanted their focus to be, we want to spend all our time just developing the games, making the games as perfect as they can be. And the Davidson Institute, the reason why this is such a great arrangement for them is because their philosophy, right? The Davidson Institute's philosophy was, you guys can do whatever you want, okay? You guys have control. And the word for this, which is like so important, is autonomy. Autonomy basically means independent, right? You could say that, you could say that if there's like, for instance, a country, right? and there's like a region over here that's not controlled by the larger country, right? You would say that this little region is autonomous. It has its autonomy, right? So autonomy basically means independence, right? And this is really important because I'll tell you why, right?